Welcome to the party, pal. Hello everyone and welcome to Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry. This is my Santa hat, and this is another review of one of my favorite Christmas movies. In this case, 1988's Die Hard, the story of one man with no shoes fighting terrorists on a skyscraper on Christmas Eve. Of course, Die Hard is one of the landmark, foundational, definitive 1980s action movies. All the good, bad, and the ugly of that genre is right here in this movie, and it's mostly good, maybe a teensy bit of bad, and not a whole lot of ugly, unless you're talking about some of the 1980s haircuts and some of the styles of the time, but that's just kind of a cheap shot. Sorry about that. No, Die Hard is a fun movie. It launched, a lot of times we think about this in terms of, A, being such a great definitive action movie, but we also think about it as kind of Bruce Willis's coming out party. Before this, he had been on a TV show called Moonlighting with Sybil Shepherd, and I actually am old enough that I remember watching Moonlighting and thinking that his David Addison character was like the coolest guy on the face of the earth. Still might kind of think that actually, but this was kind of his big break as far as being a movie star. But it also was the first movie, for Alan Rickman, who plays Hans Gruber, the head of the terrorists. And so the movie is really just kind of not quite a cat and mouse game, but it's the idea of, Bruce Willis is visiting his wife he's separated from. They meet up at her company Christmas party, and then terrorists show up, led by Alan Rickman, Hans Gruber, and in the process, in all the chaos and confusion, John McClane is able to get separated and kind of hides in the building, and so he starts kind of being the saboteur and trying to sabotage and thwart the terrorist plans. Of course, they're not really terrorists, they're really just trying to get money, but that's sort of a little bit of a spoiler there for anybody who's watching this who hasn't already seen Die Hard. This movie really, I think, succeeds because Bruce Willis's character is so fun. In fact, when you learn about the background of this movie, you find that they actually were pretty skeptical about the idea of him being an action star, because he wasn't this huge, guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, who were kind of like the big definitive 80s action stars at the time. I think that's actually one of the things that makes it work so well. It's not just, because he has such a great sense of humor and, the one-liners and the quips and all that kind of thing. But one thing that I think that people, either overlook or just, actually, I think one of the things that people miss later on, so why, some similar movies may not have worked quite as well, and maybe even some of the Die Hard movies, the sequels have not worked as well, is because one of the best things about that first movie is that John McClane is not a superhero. He's not larger than life. He definitely gets involved in some crazy stunts and some over-the-top action, but there's never the sense that he's invincible. In fact, he gets beat up all the way through the movie and cuts up his feet, and and there's this great moment, when I don't think this is giving away too much, but when after most of the movie's action has gone by and he sees his wife, just the interaction as she sees what her husband has become over the last couple hours is just hilarious. And I think one of the things that makes the movie work so well is that, like with Indiana Jones, especially in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the lead character is somebody who is just a little bit in over his head and really, is not kind of guaranteed, kind of like with Schwarzenegger or somebody like that, who's just going to be tossing people around right and left. And of course, there's a lot of fun with those kind of movies. The Schwarzenegger stuff's great. The stuff with The Rock nowadays, he's really great and charismatic in the same way. But I think the reason that the first Die Hard works so well is because, John McClane is a believable underdog. And I don't really think that the later Die Hard movies quite capitalized on that as well. So propping up the first one and maybe criticizing the sequels a little bit. Just great, outings for Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman. Just a fun one. John McTiernan was the director. He went on to do Hunt for Red October. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that movie as well. Also a really, really fun one. Although unlike Hunt for Red October, Die Hard is definitely a rated R film. And it's pretty much covered all the bases. You got all kinds of profanity. There's quite a bit of violence. And it's not super gory. Like it's certainly not, the worst of an R-rated violence, but there's also some obligatory 1980s nudity that comes up in a couple of different places, and so you kind of have to keep that in mind. Unfortunately, it is more on the R-rated end of that spectrum. Still technically a Christmas movie, and so it's kind of fun. The whole thing takes place on Christmas Eve, and so there's kind of a wacky, juxtaposition there. But honestly, if you want to see where the genre came from, the whole one man versus a whole group of people while trapped on something, this is where it happened. So it'd be hard to give Die Hard anything but 4 stars out of 4. So in the spirit of Christmas, let's go ahead and give Die Hard 4 stars out of 4. Like I said, I mean, it's an 80s action movie, and so it can be kind of dumb in places and over the top, but I think its merits easily outweigh its shortcomings. And it's a fun one. Even if you've seen it before, it's worth checking out again. So what's your favorite movie that uses the Die Hard formula of the one protagonist, the one hero trapped somewhere trying to fight off all the bad guys at once? Leave your answers in the comments below. So thanks for watching. This has been Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry, and I would be very grateful if you would subscribe on your way out and keep the notifications on so you can see the new videos as soon as they're posted. Have a great holiday season, and keep an eye out for those terrorists or those robbers out there. See ya.